Friends, welcome back to the channel where fitness meets philosophy. My name is Joe Rahana, and today's episode is going to be around performance versus aesthetics, or the looks versus the movement. And we're going to dig into the foundational movement patterns. Before we begin with our subject, I'm just going to lay it out there that I have been absent because of a surgery that I have been recovering from, and now everything is good and I am back in action. It's just a reminder that even something as small as your foot can really affect the entire trajectory of your life, especially if most of your life is about movement, is about physical activity. But on the good side, I spent a lot of my time learning something new, learning something that is useful to me, and I created an application that will help me in training, that will help me in training, providing trainings for other people, etc., etc. I'll talk about that later. It's going to be very exciting because it will open up a lot of new doors. So basically our subject today is a very common comparison, especially among fitness in the fitness society. So people sometimes say it is very important to have your muscles being strong, to strengthen your muscles, and to sit and isolate the muscles. This is the best way to strengthen your muscles. Other people would say, no, why would you sit on a machine? Rather, we want to be able to do a free movement, okay? Free weights versus machines, that's also a different way to put the subject. Before we start, let me just give you an overview of why I think people train, why I think people exercise in general. So basically, people train with different goals in mind. Some people train to lose weight, some people train to look good, some people train to be healthy, live longer. Others, or most people, train because they think and feel that they feel better after training. So if they think about it, they would come to the conclusion that basically we have excess energy. We have a lot of energy, physical energy, that is not spent, especially because we spend most of our times sitting at home or behind our computers, sitting in the office, sitting at home, etc. So a lot of sitting and too little movement. So most people train to be better human beings, to have better relationships, to channel this excess energy instead of feeling a lot of energy that is suppressed and that will come out as, I don't know, being angry or being frustrated or lashing out on other people. So I think most people understand that there's a lot of benefit that comes from that part. And you would be surprised about how good it is, how better you can have better relationships when you do regular physical activity. And here I'm talking about a healthy relationship with physical activity. I'm not talking about someone who's avoiding responsibility, for example, personal responsibility in their lives towards their family, friends, etc., towards themselves by going to the gym and spending hours and hours every day. I'm talking about a healthy relationship with physical exercise. Even though nowadays there's a lot of fitness content, the fitness culture is everywhere. We hear a lot of new things coming out all the time. And to be fair, a lot of things are pretty good, actually. And equally, there's bad things at the same time. So very good things exist, very bad things exist. And I kind of differentiate or kind of separated these ideas or this content in 4 categories. Category number 1 is what is useful. Category number 2 is what is less useful. Category number 3 is what is useless. And category number 4 is what is dangerous, what is harmful. So these are 4 different categories. And what I will try to help you here is to differentiate and classify a little bit what's good and what's useless. A lot of the times we see so much content online. Again, as I said before, some is very good, but equally, of course, some is very bad. Not everyone is equipped to differentiate between all those categories. Bodybuilding, for example, influenced the gym culture big times. So in the 70s, 80s, 90s, a lot of bodybuilding influence just sat on the fitness industry, and most people, a lot of people go to the gym and do bodybuilding style kind of exercises. Again, no hate towards bodybuilding, it's a great sport. But any bodybuilder that's listening or that's watching this knows that bodybuilding is not only about progressive overload in your chest press machine, on your chest press machine. It's not about adding weights and more repetitions and following these schemes. Bodybuilding has a lot of lifestyle choices and very difficult lifestyle choices. Food, sacrifices. So it's a difficult thing to do. It belongs with bodybuilders and people who really want to pursue something in that direction. But for most people, you can have better, more useful things to do with the little time that you have at the gym. So the best thing that I can do as someone who works in the fitness industry, someone who has been there for a long time, and someone who really finds a lot of passion and benefit from conveying these ideas to people. So my job is to critique the milieu that I'm in. And critique might sound like a bad word, but it's not. What actually drives change is critique. Okay, we criticize, not criticize, but we critique the things, the information ourselves, and decide whether these things are good or bad, and move on and build on these things. So without critique, there's no significant change. Any coach or a professional trainer or someone who's in the fitness industry understands that the body doesn't moves in like a robot, and the body classifies movements in patterns. And patterns are not laws of physics, so the body doesn't have to move in those specific patterns. But we have realized that when those patterns are repeated over and over again, we came to categorize them and call them the foundational movement patterns. And those foundational movement patterns are the ones that I will be talking about today in this video. And they are very basic and simple, but it's always nice to go through these exercises or these movements. Actually, those are movement patterns. Go through them slowly, one by one, and explain why we should respect them and how this pattern actually moves and behaves. So, number one, we have the squat, which is a very famous exercise, but the squat is a movement pattern as well. So it's a controlled descent, controlled ascent of your center of mass under gravity. Okay, so you're controlling your body while gravity is pulling against you. And I see a lot of people who have bad relationship with squats or who have had some kind of a bad experience with it. They substitute squats with leg press. And of course, again, no hate against leg press. Leg press is a great machine. It puts a lot of tension on your quadriceps, therefore it builds your muscles. But what it lacks and what it removes is balance, coordination, and spinal organization. All right. So all these things that you gain from doing the squat, if you substitute to a leg press, you are losing. That's for squats. Now moving on from squat to hip hinge, which is sometimes a movement that is mixed and matched with squats for lack of movement, for reasons of stiffness and not knowing actually how you should move. So the hip hinge is a hip flexion, hip extension, while the spine stays organized. And why I'm saying organized here and not straight, because you can make the argument, and some people really think and say and argue with good arguments and solid scientific arguments about that you don't have to have a straight spine all the time. Sometimes you can have the spine in different yet safe positions. So when I'm saying organized, that it's the opposite of disorganized or not, you don't know what's happening there. Okay, you should know how your spine is while you're moving. You should control it. You should be aware of what's happening there. This is my point from staying organized. So the hips are loaded. You push your hips to the back with a straight or organized spine. And the muscles that are used here are the posterior chain, the muscles that are on the back of your body. All right, these are muscles that are responsible for sprints like glutes, very big, very strong muscles, explosive, thrust forward. Why a lot of people suck in hinging? Number one is because of the huge amount of hours spent sitting. Your hips feel locked when you sit a lot of time because they shorten. The muscles in front of the body shorten. The glutes, because you're sitting on them all the time, they atrophy, they get smaller, they kind of get weak and sloppy. And then you lose control and awareness over your joints and over the entire hip area. So sitting is very detrimental to your hip region and muscles. This is when it comes to hip hinge and why a lot of us suck in hinging. Now we move to the lunge. The lunge is very close to a squat, which is a single leg squat. Very similar to a single leg, but it requires a lot of balance and a lot of force production. A lot of people hate lunges because they find it difficult, mainly because of the balance and weakness issue. So you should do more lunges and you should spot your weakness and work on strengthening those weaknesses. And substituting your lunges with machines, although you become stronger muscle-wise, you are working in a symmetrical way. You lose the gains that you get from working in a asymmetrical way. If your lunge is weak, your running mechanism is weak and deteriorates and suffers. Also, your change of direction becomes sloppy. So when your unilateral or asymmetric work is respected, your change of direction becomes better. You become more resilient, less prone to injuries. Now, these three movement patterns, squat, hinge, and lunge, are lower body dominant, lower body exercises. Now we're moving to more upper body exercises and starting with the push. The push is the transferring of power from your body into the environment. So you push, you move force from your body into the environment. And the transferring of force starts from the torso to the shoulders, to the arms, to the object that you're pressing. Torso, shoulders, arms, object. So this is how the force moves in a push. And there's a distinction between horizontal push and vertical push. And I wrote down a reality check here for push. For example, can you do a clean push-up without collapsing, without your body collapsing? This is something that you can try yourself. Reality check for push. Can you do a clean push-up without collapsing? Number 2, can you do an overhead press without arching? Okay. Can you generate force without losing position? So can you push something without completely losing position? Those are very important reality checks. Now let's move to pull. So the opposite of push is pull. And obviously it's absorbing force and redirecting the force towards you while staying organized. And staying organized means staying stable. The pull starts from the grip. So the grip is what initiates the pull. And we all know and talked many times about how important the grip is because of how the strength in the grip is an indicator of many strength metrics in your body. So you can be strong, you can have a very strong grip, and if it doesn't deteriorate with age, especially as an older adult, if your grip is still strong, it means that your overall strength is still there. So the pull is absorbing force and redirecting it towards you while staying organized. The grip initiates the pull, the scapula positions, the back generates the tension, and the core stabilizes. Grip, scapula, back, and core. Also, another reality check for when it comes to pulling. Can you hang from a bar comfortably? So can you just hold the bar and hang comfortably? Can you pull your body up without kipping? Okay, can you just pull your body up without kipping? A lot of people can do that. And I understand it's a difficult exercise. It's a difficult task to pull your body up. It requires a lot of upper body strength. This is why it's a reality check. Can you control the lowering phase? So if you cannot pull yourself up, fine, you can work on getting stronger there. Can you lower yourself slowly? Can you control the descent? Very important. So push is the force you impose, and pull is the force you deal with it when it's coming towards you. So push, you impose force. Pull, you deal with force coming towards you. Very important and nice to keep in mind. Now we covered squat, hinge, lunge, push, pull, and we come to anti-movement. Very strange and contradictory term, anti-movement. And anti-movement has a very nice explanation, which kind of is an analogy to life. Preventing unwanted motion while force is acting on you. Life is all the time acting on you, and you are trying to prevent unwanted motion. I thought that's very nice to share with you. So the three main forms of anti-movement are anti-extension, so not arching your back, being able to keep a straight lumbar spine. Anti-rotation, so don't twist, torque. If something's forcing you to twist, you should resist and not twist, and not abide or not collapse under this tension. And then finally, anti-lateral flexion, which is don't bend sideways. If you're holding, for example, a suitcase, if you're holding any kind of weight on one side, the opposite side is trying to balance with enough force and trying to control you from bending to one side. Okay, so all the other patterns, by the way, so push, pull, hinge, squat, lunge, depend on your ability to resist and not collapse. So anti-movement is one of the fundamental, or actually is a precursor for the rest. Because if your core fails, your squat is leaking. You cannot squat in a correct way. If your hinge overloads your spine, so if your core fails, your spine takes over, and then you cannot hinge in a proper way. The push loses power and the pull becomes unstable. So all these are sitting on the strength of your ability to resist force. So the anti-movement is very important for all these other movement patterns. The foundation of everything else. Can you resist chaos? This is the concept of resisting unwanted force, anti-movement. And it's very important to understand that also life in general, there's no symmetrical force coming towards you. You don't move in a symmetrical way in life. And I know that this might sound a little bit cliche when someone is listening at this and saying, but overall, when you train your muscles and your muscles become strong, you become strong. And this kind of leaks into your normal life. This is kind of true. But again, in real life, you have to move in different kinds of ways. And the best way to protect yourself and be more functional in real life is to train according to these movement patterns and respect these movement patterns, because they cover almost all the ways that your body can move in. So life doesn't load you cleanly. There's a lot of uneven forces, there's unpredictable angles, and there's fatigue. So you have to manage all these things. Finally, to leave you with some reflections on today's topic, which is aesthetics versus movement patterns, and we double-clicked on movement patterns and tried to understand how those movements are and why they are important. Again, there's absolutely no problem and nothing wrong with aesthetics, so with working towards looking good. But a six pack, a better, more defined six pack, does not always mean a stronger core, does not always mean a more resilience against pressure. So what you need is less of a six pack and more of a spine that can withstand and doesn't collapse under pressure. So this is very important in my point of view. Of course, you need to look good, and this is very important for self-esteem and how you see yourself and how others see you. I think that's important, at least for a lot of people. And knowing that you're doing the things that are also healthy for you and also protecting you from any injury and helping you to live longer and better, healthier life and more resilient, building a more resilient body. That's a very important point to me, a very dear point to me. Again, you can decide the way you want to train. And if you're a bodybuilder, that's all the respect, hats off. Bodybuilding is a very difficult sport. It requires a lot of sacrifice, but for most people, it pays better dividends if they focus on movement patterns, if they work those movement patterns. Not because those are sacred movement patterns and the body always has to move in these specific movement patterns, but because they cover a lot of area in how you might receive force or how you might be moving in the real world. And you need to strengthen all those movement patterns. So in summary, for most people, training according to movement patterns pays much more dividends than working in isolation and as bodybuilders would work. All right. So I hope you found this information and these reflections. Most of it is reflections from my side, beneficial. If you did, please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all these things, and I'll see you next time.